Come on, go back to my comments. I see my sister is headed home. Drive safe, sis. Today's AA, and I'm going to the doctor tonight. I still don't feel good, so yeah. I knew last week I was getting sick, but yeah, anyway. Got the dog on my lap. He doesn't like holding my book, so I guess I can't hold my book. What are you doing? Here he's a little rider boy. Mama little rider boy. He's got this thing for ears. I don't know why. Why do you lick my ear? It's just weird. Just really weird. Yeah. He goes to sleep sitting like this. Sometimes he'll lean back further than that, and you have to actually hold him like a baby so he doesn't fall. And he likes to be held like a baby. He likes to be held like a baby. He's a big old baby, huh? I'm a big old baby. So yeah, today's AA. So let's go ahead and get it started. I feel like crud, but I'm gonna do AA anyway. Sorry if my voice will last that long. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Oh boy. Okay. Thank you for sharing out, Lil. I gotta do this hat. Oh. Thought maybe it would keep me from sweating, but nope, it makes me sweat. Okay, so please be kind in the comments, in the chat. I know people watch the replays, and just remember this is a place of helping other people with something that they may be struggling with. So be mindful of that and don't do judgment. And just because they leave a comment doesn't mean that they're the alcoholic. So I do have friends and family that come in and are just supporting my channel. So just remember that. One, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made the decision to turn our will and our lives over the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defective characters. 7, we're humbly ask Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. Your feet are bony and it hurt my leg, buddy. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continue to take personal inventory when wrong, promptly admit it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. Now he's mad at me because I put him out. What one did I just say? 9? Yeah, okay. 10. Continue to take personal inventory, and when wrong, promptly admit it. 11. Start through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry it out. 12. Having had a spiritual awakening and as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Oh, I always put in the description what I'm reading. The story, book, and page number in the descriptions. It says more. I don't know why, but it does. Anyways, he sold himself short. But he found there was a higher power that had more faith in him than he had in himself. Thus, AA was born in Chicago. I grew up in a small town outside Akron, Ohio, where the life was typical of any average small town. I was very much interested in athletics, and because of this and parental influence, I didn't drink or smoke in either grade or high school. All of this changed when I went to college. I had to adapt to new associations and associates. It seemed to be the smart thing to drink and smoke. I confined drinking to weekends and drank normally in college and for several years thereafter. After I left school, I went to work in Akron, living at home with my parents. Home life was again a restraining influence. When I drank, I hid it from my folks out of respect for their feelings. This continued until I was 27. Then I started traveling with the United States and Canada as my territory, and with so much freedom and with an unlimited. Get out of there! You're gonna get zapped, you dingy. Move. You're gonna get zapped. He's right here licking the lamp. Move it. Sit down. You stay there then. Then I started traveling. Oh, I read that. I was soon drinking every night and kidding myself that it was all part of the job. I know now that 60% of the time I drank alone without benefit of customers. In 1930, I moved to Chicago. Shortly thereafter, aided by the Depression, I found that I had a great deal of spare time and that a little drink in the morning helped. By 1932, I was going on 2 or 3 day benders. That same year, my wife became fed up with my drinking around the house and called my dad in Akron to come pick me up. She asked him to do something about me because she couldn't. She was thoroughly disgusted. This was the beginning of 5 years of bouncing back and forth between my home in Chicago and Akron to sober up. It was a period of binges coming closer and closer together and being of longer durations. Once my dad came all the way to Florida to sober me up after a hotel manager called him and said that he wanted to see me alive. He better get there fast. My wife could not understand why I would sober up for Dad, but not for her. They went into a huddle, and Dad explained that he simply took my pants, shoes, and money away so that I could get no liquor and had to sober up. Sour. One time, my wife decided to try this too. After finding every bottle that I had hidden around my apartment, she took away my pants, my shoes, my money, and my keys, threw them under the bed in the back bedroom, and slip locked our door. By 1 a.m., I was desperate. I found some wool stockings, some white flannels that had shrunk to my knees, and an old jacket. I jimmied the front door so that I could get back in and walked out. I was hit by an icy blast. It was February with snow and ice on the ground, and I had a 4-block walk to the nearest cab stand, but I made it. On my ride to the nearest bar, I told the driver on how misunderstood I was by my wife and what an unreasonable person she was. By the time we reached the bar, he was willing to buy me a quart with his own money. Then, when we got back to the apartment, he was willing to wait 2 or 3 days until I got my health back to be paid off for the liquor and fare. I was a good salesman. My wife could not understand the next morning why I was drunker than the night before when she had taken my bottles. After a particularly bad Christmas and New Year's holiday, Dad picked me up again early in January 1937 to go through the usual sober-up routine. This consisted of walking the floor for 3 or 4 days and nights until I could take nourishment. This time he had a suggestion to offer. He waited until I was completely sober, and on the day before I was to head for Chicago, he told me a small group of men in Akron who apparently had the same problem that I had, but were doing something about it. He said they were sober, happy, and had their self-respect back, as well as the respect of their neighbors. He mentioned 2 of them whom I had known through the years and suggested that I talk to them. But I had my health back, and besides, I reasoned, they were worse than I would ever be. Why, even a year ago, I had seen Howard, an ex-doctor, mooching a dime for a drink. I could not possibly be that bad. I would at least have asked for a quarter. So I told Dad that I would lick it on my own, that I would drink nothing for a month, and after that, only beer. Several months later, Dad was back in Chicago to pick me up again. But this time, my attitude was entirely different. I could not wait to tell him that I wanted help, that if these men in Akron had anything, I wanted it and would do anything to get it. I was completely licked by alcohol. I could still remember very distantly getting into Akron at 11 p.m. and routing the same Howard out of bed to do something about it, or about me. He spent 2 hours with me that night telling me his story. He said he had finally learned that drinking was a fatal illness made up of an energy plus an obsession. We were completely hopeless and could look forward only to spending the balance of our lives in a mental institution or death. Okay, Lily. He laid great stress on the progression of his attitude towards life and people, and most of his attitudes had been very similar to mine. I thought at times that he was telling my story. I thought that I was completely different from other people, that I was beginning to become a little balmy, even to the point of withdrawing more and more from society and wanting to be alone with my bottle. Here was a man with essentially the same outlook on life, except that he had done something about it. He was happy, getting a kick out of life and people, and beginning to get his medical practice back again. As I look back on that first evening, you're going to fall off my lap, ding dong. I realized that I began to hope. Then, for the first time, I felt that if he could regain these things, perhaps it would be possible for me too. The afternoon and evening, 2 other men visited me. And each told me his story and things that they were doing to try to recover from this tragic illness. They had that certain something that seemed to glow, a peace, a serenity combined with happiness. In the next 2 or 3 days, the balance of this handful of men contacted me, encouraged me, and told me how they were trying to live this program of recovery and the fun they were having doing it. Then and then only, after a thorough indoctrination by 8 or 9 individuals, was I allowed to attend my first meeting. This first meeting was held in the living room of a home and was led by Bill D., the first man that Bill W. and Dr. Bob had worked with successfully. The meeting consisted of perhaps 8 or 9 alcoholics and 7 or 8 wives. It was different from the meetings now held. The big AA book, had not been written, and there was no literature except various religious pamphlets. The program was carried on entirely by word of mouth. The meeting lasted an hour and closed with the Lord's Prayer. After it was closed, we all retired to the kitchen and had coffee and donuts and more discussion until the small hours of the morning. I was terribly impressed by this meeting and the quality of happiness these men displayed, despite their lack of material means. In this small group during the Depression, there was no one who was not hard up. I stayed in Akron 2 or 3 weeks on my initial trip, trying to absorb as much of the program as philosophy as possible. I spent a great deal of time with Dr. Bob, whoever he had the time to spare, whenever he had the time to spare, and in the homes of 2 or 3 other people, trying to see how the family lived the program. Every evening, we would meet at the home of one of the members and have coffee and donuts and spend a social evening. The day before I was due to go back to Chicago, it was Dr. Bob's afternoon off. He had me to the office, and we spent 3 or 4 hours formally going through the 6-step program as it was at that time. The 6 steps were complete deflation, dependence and guidance from a higher power, moral inventory, confessions, restitution, continued work with other alcoholics. Dr. Bob led me through all of these steps after moral inventory. He brought up several of my bad personality traits or character defects such as selfishness, conceit, jealousy, carelessness, intolerance, ill temper, sarcasm, and resentments. We went over these at great length. And then he finally asked me if I wanted these defects of characters removed. When I said yes, we both knelt at his desk and prayed, each of us asking to have these defects taken away. This picture is so vivid. If I live to be 100, it will always stand out in my mind. It was very impressive, and I wish that every AA could have the benefit of this type of sponsorship today. Dr. Bob always emphasized the religious angle very strongly, and I think it helped. I know it helped me. Dr. Bob then led me through the restitution step, in which he made a list of all of the persons I had harmed and worked out the ways of and the means of slowly making restitution. I made several decisions at that time. One of them was that I would try to get a group started in Chicago. The second was that I would have to return to Akron to attend meetings at least every 2 months until I did get a group started in Chicago. And I gotta put this dog down again because I'm roasting. Go eat. I'm hot, dude. You're like a heater. Making me sweat. Third, I decided I must place this program above everything else, even my family, because if I did not maintain my sobriety, I would lose my family anyway. If I did not maintain my sobriety, I would not have a job. If I did not maintain my sobriety, I would have no friends left. I had few at that time. The next day, I went back to Chicago and started a vigorous campaign among my so-called friends or drinking companions. Their answer was always the same. If they needed it at any time, they would surely get in touch with me. I went to a minister and a doctor whom I still knew, and they in turn asked me how long I had been sober. When I told them 6 weeks, they were polite and said that they would contact me in case they had anyone with an alcoholic problem. Needless to say, it was a year or more before they did contact me. On my trip back to Akron to get my spirits recharged and to work with other alcoholics, I would ask Dr. Bob about this delay and wondered just what was wrong with me. He would invariably reply, "When you are right and the time is right, Providence will provide. You must always be willing and continue to make contacts." A few months after I made my original trip to Akron, I was feeling pretty cocky, and I didn't think my wife was treating me the proper respect now that I was an outstanding citizen. So I set out to get drunk deliberately, just to teach her what she was missing. A week later, I had to get an old friend from Akron to spend 2 days sobering me up. That was my lesson, that one could not take the moral inventory and then file it away. That the alcoholic has to continue to take inventory every day if he expects to get well and stay well. That was my only slip. It taught me a valuable lesson. In the summer of 1938, almost a year from the time I made my original contact with Akron, the man for whom I was working and who knew about the program approached me and asked if I could do anything about one of his salesmen who was drinking very heavily. I went to the sanitarium where this chap was incarcerated and found to my surprise that he was interested. He had been waiting to do something about his drinking for a long time, but did not know how. I spent several days with him, but I did not feel adequate to pass the program on to him by myself. So I suggested that lost my spot. I closed my eyes and I lost my spot that fast. So I suggested that he take a trip to Akron for a couple of weeks, which he did. Living with one of the AA families there, when he returned, he had practically daily meetings from that time on. It's like a sauna. Sweating. Hi, Tony. Now I really lost my spot. Oh, man. A few months later, one of the men who had been in touch with the group in Akron came to Chicago to live. And then there were 3 of us who continued to have informal meetings quite regularly. In the spring of 1939, the big book was printed. And we had 2 inquiries from the New York office because of the 15-minute radio talk that was made. Neither one of the 2 was interested for himself. One being a mother who wanted to do something for her son. I suggested to her she should see the son's minister or doctor, and that perhaps he would recommend the AA program. The doctor, a young man, immediately took fire with the idea, and while he did not conceive the son, he turned over 2 prospects who were anxious for the program. The 3 of us did not feel up to the job, and after a few meetings, we convinced the prospects that they too should go to Akron, where they could see an older group in action. In the meantime, another doctor in Evanston became convinced that the program had possibilities and turned over a woman to us to do something about. She was full of enthusiasm and also made the trip to Akron immediately on her return in the autumn of 1939. We began to have formal meetings once a week, and we have continued to do this and to expand ever since. Occasionally, it is accorded to a few of us to watch something fine grow from a tiny kernel into something of gigantic goodness. Such has been my privilege, both nationally and in my home city, from a mere handful in Akron. We have spread throughout the world from a single member in the Chicago area commuting to Akron. We now exceed 6,000. These last 18 years have been the happiest of my life. Right through that statement may seem 15 of those years I had not have enjoyed had I continued drinking. Doctors told me before I stopped that I had only 3 years at the outside to live. This latest part of my life has had a purpose. Great things accomplished, but in daily living, courage to face each day has replaced the fear and uncertainties of earlier years. Acceptance of things as they are has replaced the old impatient camping at the bit to conquer the world. I have stopped tilting at windmills and instead have tried to accomplish the little daily tasks, unimportant in themselves, but tasks that are an integral part of living fully. Where derision, contempt, and pity were once shown me, I now enjoy the respect of many people. Where once I had casual acquaintances, all of whom were fair-weathered people or fair-weather friends, I now have a host of friends who accept me for what I am. And over my AA years, I have made many real, honest, sincere friendships that I shall always cherish. I'm rated as a modest, successful man. My stock and materials good isn't great, but I have a fortune in friendship, courage, self-assurance, and honest appraisal of my own abilities. Above all, I have gained the greatest things according to any man, the love and understanding of a gracious God who has lifted me from the alcoholic scrap heap to a position of trust where I have been able to reap the rich rewards that come from showing a little love for others and from serving them as I can. Yeah. I always say I did that going back out, but that was before I found AA. And, sometimes that happens. And you learn that. For me, I learned from being part of AA that when I went out before I found AA, that was my time to fall off the wagon and restart. And I think it might be why I've been able to stay sober for 11 years. And having my real friends I have friends that have been my friends for many, many years. But I also have friends that I have made through AA, and having a sponsor that is like, I don't know, a sister, a parent, a best friend, somebody I have confidence in that I can talk to about things, and she understands what I'm going through when I'm going through it, and she always has that answer for me. It might take her a minute to think about it, but she always has that right answer to tell me what I need to do to make it different and make it right to where I feel right. And having a program to help me to stay sober has been a blessing in disguise. I don't crave the alcohol anymore. I hardly ever think about it anymore. I have friends that'll say, well, I just drank this. And I'm like, well, I haven't drank in 11 years, so it's fine. And it doesn't bother me that they're drinking because I know that they know that I'm a recovering alcoholic. And if they come to that point in life that they feel that they might need that help, they know I'm here. And this story is also why I always say I pass it on. I pass the message on about AA because if we kept it to ourselves, we would not have the expansion of the groups and it being everywhere, because there are people everywhere that suffer from alcoholism and narcotic use and without having the knowledge of having that help there, some of us don't make it. And I know I have friends that go back out and they'll come back and they'll say, well, I have to start over. I'll be a little bit disappointed, but I'm always there to encourage them to, you know what you need to do to help yourself to stay sober. And I'm here along your way to help guide you and help you through the days if that's what you need. All you have to do is just ask. And it's why I do these meetings, because not everybody can go out to a meeting. Like me right now, I'm sick, so I can't go out and go to a meeting. And doing these meetings helps me just as much as it helps you. And also what I was going to say is I highlighted the first in this story, but he found there was a higher power that had more faith in him than he had had in himself. Thus, AA was born in Chicago. And doing the binge drinking, I always did. I didn't drink straight through. Like, it wasn't every single day. I did do the binging. But then the days that I would not be drinking, I was like laying in bed because my world was spinning. It was spinning so fast I couldn't see. But just knowing that there's something out there that can help. And I have made so many friends that I tell them, go to AA, come to a meeting. And I don't do that just to get them to go with me. No, I tell them that because if they want to be sober, they have to do it for them. They cannot take care of somebody else if they're not taking care of them first. And that's the truth. If you're not going to work your program first, you're not going to work your day. And that means you can't take care of anybody else. And I swear by that. And because if you're falling down drunk, what are you going to do? You can't help somebody else. There's no way. And I don't know where my dog went. Maybe he went to my bed. I don't know where he went. He's not on my lap. I don't know where he went. But anyways, but it's the truth. If you can't work on you, you can't work on anything else. And I work on me every day. I still do the isolating because I have those days that I don't want to do anything or be around people. And oh no, I do every now and then get out there. Mainly Fridays and Saturdays, or Saturdays and Sundays, because I'm not at home. I'm at work socializing with people at work. But anyways, I didn't go live on Facebook today, so I'm going to read the daily reflection in a minute. All right, let's find it here. Here we go. Daily reflection. More reading. We pause and ask. As we go through the day, we pause when agitated or doubtful and ask for the right thoughts or right actions. I do this at work. Honestly, I do it a lot. Today, I humbly ask my higher power for the grace to find the space between my impulse and my action, to let flow a cooling breeze when I would respond with heat, to interrupt fierceness with gentle peace, to accept the moment which allows judgment to become disconcernment, to defer to silence when my tongue would rush to attack or defend. I need to learn that one a little more. I promise to watch for every opportunity to turn toward my higher power for guidance. I know where this power is. It resides within me, as clear as a mountain brook. Hidden in the hills, it is the unsuspected inner resource. I thank my higher power for this world of light and truth I see when I allow it to direct my vision. I trust it today and hope it trusts me to make all effort to find the right thoughts or actions today. Amen to that. Anyway. I'm tired. You take a day off. Tony, you're not supposed to take a day off. No. No, and it's okay to not want to do your program for a day. Because we still know in here what we have to do, and if we take a day off, then we got to make up a day, right? Yeah. But whenever you want, you can. Yes. AA is always here, and it's always on my mind. I'll be talking to somebody at work, and I'll be like, oh, by the way, I'm a recovering alcoholic. And by me being honest about it, makes them honest about it. And I don't say it to get other people to say that they're in recovery or anything like that. But I found that when I do say it, once in a while I will have somebody behind me or in front of me or beside me that is listening in, and they'll say, you're recovering too? And I was like, yeah. Why? And they'll be like, because I'm recovering and I'm only X amount of years. And to me, that is awesome when somebody is willing to let other people know that they are recovering as well. Oh, taking a day from electronics and all of those things is good too. Yes. But anyway, I'm going to get off here and let my voice rest. I think I'm going to go to the doctor today. Oh, I'm so tired. I don't feel good. Anyways, I love you guys. Thank you for being here. God, grant me the serenity to accept things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know their difference. Love you guys. And it works if you work it. Stay sober. There's help everywhere. Make that call if you need to.